You are in Georgia because Kelly Leffler just spoke a few minutes ago, one of the losing candidates last night, a staunch Trump ally. What she said on the floor tonight, hugely consequential for the business Congress is handling tonight. The floor is yours.
Yeah, no question, Rob. And I think it's important to point out that Kelly Leffler the other night, the senator who lost election here to Reverend Raphael Warnock, the other night when she was in Dalton, Georgia, we heard her talk about how she was going to join those objecting to the count of the Electoral College. And then it was Kelly Leffler today in the waning days of her Senate career that sat down or stood up in the U.S. Senate today and said that she was not going to partake in that this was nothing that she wanted to do. Whether or not it was something she wanted to campaign on, we're not clear. But let's listen to still Senator Leffler just a little bit ago.
When I arrived in Washington this morning, I fully intended to object to the certification of the electoral votes. However, the events that have transpired today have forced me to reconsider, and I cannot now in good conscience object to the certification of these electors. The violence, the lawlessness, and siege of the halls of Congress are abhorrent and stand as a direct attack on the very institution my objection was intended to protect, the sanctity of the American democratic process. And I thank law enforcement for keeping us safe. I believe that there were last-minute changes to the November 2020 election process and serious irregularities that resulted in too many Americans losing confidence not only in the integrity of our elections, but in the power of the ballot as a tool of democracy. Too many Americans are frustrated at what they see as an unfair system. Nevertheless, there is no excuse for the events that took place in these chambers today, and I pray that America never suffers such a dark day again.
And there were other senators that followed the clearly, exhausted. It's been a tough 24 hours for Kelly Leffler. Other senators have since also dropped out of that. Both senators from Tennessee, Marshall Blackburn, Ted Hagerty just started. We just got that news. I think that it's also important to point out that last night we were on the air until very late, waiting to hear results. We got the Warnock result today. We got the Ossoff result that he beat Senator David Perdue in a race that was closer than the Warnock vote. Fulton County, where we stand right now, has stopped counting ballots due to what happened today. They just wanted a little air of caution around official government business. But last night when I said goodnight to Joe and I were up late waiting to see if there was a result. He and I texted. I texted tomorrow's going to be a doozy. I hadn't expected it to be what it is today. I expected that we'd be talking just about these Senate races. But it was Ossoff and it was Warnock who really did do history here. I mean, we're talking about unprecedented times in Washington. Two Senate races on one day, overturning control of the U.S. Senate. There's no precedent for that, so I don't want to gloss over how important that was. And we did hear from both senators-elect today. Here's Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff.
I am going to the Senate to work for all of Georgia, no matter who you cast your vote for in this election.
As I serve this state in the U.S. Senate, ensuring that every Georgian has great health care, no matter our wealth. Ensuring that we invest in an economic recovery that includes all communities, that rebuilds our state's infrastructure, that lays the foundations for prosperity in rural Georgia, suburban communities, and urban communities alike. And securing equal justice for all.
And these two men will be U.S. senators. January 15th is when the 159 counties in Georgia have to certify, and on January 22nd is when Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger has until to certify. We should say that Governor Brian Kemp was also out responding to what was going on in Washington. The National Guard is on duty here in Atlanta. Governor Kemp speaking to us, or speaking to the state just over our shoulder in the State House there. And this is what Governor Kemp had to say about the precautions being taken in this state.
I want to let my fellow Georgians know that today I will be extending the previous executive order that has activated the Georgia National Guard. That will continue to be in place this coming Monday, and they will be called up as needed. I feel confident that they will not.
And while Atlantans were prepared, I would say, for something to trickle down out of what was happening in Washington, it never came to fruition here. Thankfully, there was a group of Trump supporters that were listening to the president's speech today, but it never escalated to where people thought it would. And Raphael Warnock today issued a statement over Twitter about what was happening there and what will be his new second home, at least. He said, in this moment of unrest, violence, and anger, we must remember the words of Dr. King. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Let each of us try to be a light to see our country out of this dark moment. And it's, of course, we know now that Reverend Warnock had the pulpit of Martin Luther King Jr. at Ebenezer Baptist Church here in Atlanta. So, of course, that rings true to the people that will now be his constituents. Sending it back to you.
Michael, you certainly covered a lot of ground there, and thank you for bringing us all that new sound. The one person I was hoping to hear from, and did you hear anything from the election officials today? I mean, the integrity of the election, not just in Georgia, but nationwide, of course, has been called into question. It's how we got to some of the chaos today, but they also have been very outspoken that it was a secure election in the state of Georgia and that their own lives had been threatened. So I'm curious if there was any indication today from them with the results of this latest runoff in the Peach State.
You know, that's a great question, Marty. Earlier today, which seems like, I don't know, about 3 days ago, Gabriel Sterling did speak, and he talked about the fact that there were still outstanding ballots. He didn't know quite how many in DeKalb County. They counted until 4 in the morning. They restarted in Chatham County. So there were tens of thousands that were left. There are no problems, no issues being reported. In DeKalb County, there was one memory chip that gave them some trouble, so they started doing it manually. But there was nothing on the order of protestation or refuting any of the ballots that had come in. Of course, Donald Trump today said when he spoke to the people in Washington today, he said that, of course, that he wasn't pleased with how this came out, and he said that it was a steal, it was rigged here, but there's nothing like that coming from the Republican head of either the Secretary of State or the head of the elections here in Atlanta.